Welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon. Guys and girls, I am a retired New York City police detective with over 20 years of law enforcement. If you like all things true crime related from the police perspective, please consider hitting the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you will get all things DutyRon and my guest, Ed Wallace, my co-host, when he's available, when we go live or upload another video. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the Kiely Rodni case, missing young 16-year-old from the California area. We've been covering this and we're talking about missing person cases for so long. These type of cases where there's really no answers, and it goes on. Now we're into day 13. Is just baffling from the law enforcement perspective inside and from the parental side. You know, again, Ed Wallace and myself and most of my guests that I have on, we're all parents, and this stuff hurts us. You know, it hurts because when you don't have answers, it is just mental and psychological torture. Every minute, every second, every hour is an eternity. So I don't wish this on my worst enemy. And we always want to try to get the names, get their words out there, get their stories out there. And we try to do the best that we can. But before I get started with the show, I want to say a special thank you to the Patreon supporters, the channel members, and all of the folks who positively engage in the Crime Time with DutyRon community. You guys are what makes this a great place. I mean, because without the audience and the live interactive audience that we have, and the people who leave comments and send messages onto the website, without you guys, we really got nothing. So I have to always tip my cap to each of the ladies and gentlemen who tune in, who subscribe, who share, who, like I said, engage Ed Wallace and I. This is a show of learning detectives. We want to teach you and help you understand the inner workings of what goes on in an investigation that is so complex, just like this case of Kiely Rodni. But before I play some media and stuff for you, I have a special guest tonight. She is an unbelievable contributor. She is a crime analyst for Law and Crime. She goes on to any and every news outlet that calls upon her for her expertise. Lisa Lockwood is a former SWAT officer, detective. I mean, I'm not doing her any justice. So I'm going to bring her on and I'm going to let her give you a little bit of an intro to her. Lisa, thank you so much for joining Crime Time with DutyRon tonight. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. And I appreciate the invitation. You have an amazing audience and great subscribers. And I always love engaging with them, after the show. So thank you for having me.
Again, it's our pleasure. And when I spoke with Ed, my co-host, Ed Wallace, he's in Iraq. He's doing some Department of Defense weapons of mass destruction training over there. God bless him. You couldn't pay me enough money to go over to Iraq right now, but Ed's a brave guy. And when I told him I was having you on tonight, he was like, DutyRon, you're in good hands.
No.
Lisa, if you could just I'm going to go full screen with you. Just give the audience a little bit of your background. So this way everyone gets an idea of what you have to offer here tonight.
Sure. I am an Air Force veteran, 4 years, served in Operation Desert Storm, went on to become a police officer on the south side of Chicago, and then detective undercover. I worked narcotics and various cases with catching child sex predators, infiltrating the mafia. Wrote a book about those experiences called Undercover Angel. And then later, when I left law enforcement, I started contributing in the media on a regular basis, all the way back when Nancy Grace was still on the air. Jane Blaise Mitchell, Steve Harvey, in anywhere that I felt that I can serve in a capacity of letting the audience know what was happening behind the scenes in law enforcement, when there are SWAT calls out, what happens, how do you prepare for that, and what the expectations are on those scenes. So I like to use my personal experiences just to be able to share and put things into layman's terms for the various audiences.
You know, Lisa, your resume is so long and so impressive. Every time I look at some of the intros, and I encourage everyone in the description here, all of the things that Lisa just spoke about, her website, her YouTube channel, her book. I have links to all of it down below right now in the description. But don't leave this broadcast how to do that. Definitely go and check it out. But Lisa, just, you have again, a long history in law enforcement. And when we talk about this Kiely Rodni missing person case, I know as parents and as former law enforcement, this tugs at our heartstrings, because you look at her mom, you look at her dad, you look at the community, and it just has everybody heartbroken. Any thoughts
Yes, it's like
on what's going on?
revisiting it's revisiting Gabby Petito. All of this is just so top of mind for everybody. What is going to be the result of this? And where is she and what happened and who are the players and who was involved? And yes, I think as a nation, as we start to see all of the press and the media following this case, it is kind of like a deja vu of what happened with Gabby Petito. So
Yeah.
it's challenging.
I agree, and with the being outside at these family campsite, Prosser family campsite, you're looking at a vast. We're going to show some drone footage tonight. We're going to go over quite a bit of some of the background. You're talking about anywhere from 100 to 300. These numbers are just they're just guessing at these numbers, but there was hundreds of kids and adults. We come to find out some older men showed up, and when they say older, for a 16-year-old, anything over 25 is older. So a lot of people showed up, a lot of interviews, a lot of questioning detectives. Now, we looked at some of the figures. There was at one point 200 plus investigators assigned. You have state, local, federal on this case, looking at computer forensics and things of that nature. When people see this and they say, we're on day 13, why don't we have any answers? Lisa, you know how complex these investigations are and how many people you have to interview and how many exchanges of information. When these leads start coming in, they're talking about 1,500 or so leads. Every one of those have to be followed up. And time consuming, that's an understatement, correct?
Yes, and we discovered it's about over 18,000 man hours right now. So
Yeah.
think about that. So as these tips come in, they're doled out to any available party who can start looking and following up into all of these tips. And they continue to come in. The tips just keep coming in. And unfortunately, there are people who just want the attention. And there are a lot of false tips. And we know that. It happens all the time because they want some personal notoriety, some involvement, and it throws law enforcement off, unfortunately. But yes, the man hours involved right now, the amount of days that she has been missing, her vehicle has been missing. And then also we're dealing with some teens who are not willing to speak to the police for fear of some type of involvement that the parents may not be aware of. And not encouraging your child to come forward, to me, is the hardest thing in the world. So we also have that as an issue.
Yeah, Lisa, I talked about that 2 nights ago, how difficult that is. But I just wanted to say quickly, Paige, thank you so much for the super chat. Any of the support that comes in here obviously goes towards paying it forward to help victims and their families. So I want to say thank you to everyone who watches these videos and who sends in the super chats. We try the best that we can to help supplement and help with organizations like EquiSearch Midwest. That's why I'm wearing this hat. I'm going to go full screen with it so some of the folks can see it. This was a gift from Dave Rader and Twyla Cisco. EquiSearch Midwest, they're attached to the Texas EquiSearch branch, and they search for the missing. Lost is not alone. And we're going to get into tonight talking a little bit about, I had a conversation, I had an actual conference call with Dave Rader. We didn't get Twyla because she was busy. But she's the search coordinator, and I asked Dave Rader outright about this case and if they're going to be involved in it. So stick around to the end, and we will talk about that in the end. Doodlebug Lori, I love that screen name. Look at that. Doodlebug Lori comes in with super sticker. Thank you so much for the support. Hey, Lisa, if you don't mind, I want to play just a little piece of media. This is sort of like 10 hours, 10, 12 hours ago. But this is the latest we have. We have a statement in this clip from her mom. I want to play this. Lindsey's just been nothing but, super mom, because she's holding it together and she's talking to the media. She's trying to get the word. Let's take a listen in and let's hear what she had to say here tonight. Actually, it was from 12 hours ago, so we're going to play it anyways. with the body.
Major Kiely Rodni. The 16-year-old was last seen. It is now day 11, and the search continues. So do the prayers. The search for missing teenager Kiely Rodni. The 16-year-old was last seen at a party in the Lake Tahoe area a couple of weekends ago. The last ping from her cell phone came in at 12:30 a.m. Saturday morning. Her silver Honda CRV, you see it there, is also missing. The Placer County Sheriff's Department now says the search will continue, but in a more limited way. Fewer people were working the case, down to about 100 today. Previously, it was about 200 to 300 law enforcement had been assigned daily. Detectives will still follow up on every lead, but the search team will be more like a task force. These past 11 days, excruciating, no doubt, so difficult for her family and friends. That includes her mother, Lindsey Rodni-Nieman. Lindsey joins us tonight from Truckee. Lindsey, I think I speak for every parent out there, including myself. Our hearts go out to you. What's keeping you motivated? What's keeping you going in this difficult time?
Family support from community, knowing that even though, you guys are talking about there being a reduction in personnel, that there still is a tremendous amount of people who continue to tirelessly work on this case, and even you guys being so gracious as to continue to share our story.
What type of personality? What was Kiely like? Or excuse me, what is she like? And what could save her here if she's in any sort of distress?
Kiely is strong. She's capable. She's smart. She's tenacious. She's feisty. She has a love for life, and I know that she is never been one to give up easy, and today's no different for her.
And Lindsey, let me say that we appreciate you speaking with us. We know it's hard. There were a lot of people at this party, at this campground, more than 200 young teenagers and young adults, from what I understand. What's your gut feeling here? Did she possibly go off with someone?
She sent me a text and said that she was going to be on her way home, and we're still just waiting for her to come through the door. At this point, it's, we still don't know what happened to her. And so we're just working to piece together those last moments that she was at the party to figure out where she did go and with whom.
I presume you've talked to some of her close friends that might have been with her that night. Are they revealing any details to you? Do they know much?
Her friends who were there with her at the party have been nothing but so cooperative and so courageous in coming forward and sharing their stories. And we have such a love for all of her friends, and are really appreciative of them working so hard and not compromising, but just being so open to work with everybody and being so honest to share everything that they do now.
Well, you have a lot of support and love and prayers here in the Bay Area as well. One final question. We look forward to having you back on the program after you reunite with Kiely.
Yeah, me too. Thanks so much.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Well, I wanted to play that, and it was 2 days old, but I only got that about 12 hours ago. Again, this is the most up-to-date information, not news-wise, not investigatory-wise, but this is the most, I felt was the most up-to-date info coming from her mom. Now, Lisa, you and I both know that, messages from her daughter's phone, everything that's on that phone is important for them to get. Even without the phone, they could subpoena the records through the cell carrier. That takes time, but that will tell a tale of what type of communication she had. People are questioning that, was it even her that sent those messages and things of that nature. This is something that the puzzle has to be figured out by the investigators, and it's a difficult task. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. It really is, because location services, here's the thing, and that would still be on. Even if the phone had died, you would still be able to get the location services from their phone. The only way that you would not be able to do that is if that phone was completely trashed or submerged underwater. So that's where a lot of skepticism is coming regarding that, because after 12:36, which was the last phone call between Kiely and Sami, Sammy's friend, Kiely's friend Sami, the alleged phone call, and that's the time that she gave to police and authorities, and that could be easily checked against her phone. The last time it pinged was 12:30, so that was the last ping that was picked up. So now I would say, looking at cell towers, once we're able to get that forensic data by subpoena, we'll be able to put that picture a little bit further together, because how is it that in that small time span that we completely lost it? Could the phone have lost the charge? Yes, but we would still be able to have the ability to get location services.
Right, correct. And that is where computer forensics comes in. And when Ed Wallace and I speak about this stuff behind the scenes, we have computer crimes experts. Ed worked in the crime scene unit. There is so much that can be done that we don't know about, that we won't speak about on a live stream, that goes on behind the scenes. And most people that are true crime enthusiasts, they're just saying, well, why aren't they doing it? Why this stuff is happening? A lot of things are happening behind the scenes. And I'm watching some of the comments, and I look at some of the people who send in messages to DutyRon.com. And if you're new and just stumbling across this live event, if you are not yet subscribed, consider subscribing, but also going over to DutyRon.com, where I have a section just for missing people. And if you have any information or anything that you're afraid to put forward, I do from time to time get tips that are valuable, and I forward them straight to the proper authorities. So, folks, I encourage you, if you have any tips or anything in regards to any of the cases that we cover, DutyRon.com, all one word. You don't have to put www. Just go to your search bar, put DutyRon.com, and look at the missing person cases that I have up on that website. I want to just also talk about some of the internet detectives that are, that have put her friend Sami on blast. That the mom just made that statement, and she said something about compromise, didn't want compromise. I think the mom has been is spoken to, obviously, by the feds, by the state, by the local authorities, not to put out certain information. So maybe they might have given her just slivers of little extra information. Maybe they haven't given her anything, but she caught herself there. And I think what she was catching herself saying is that she feels that people might not want to talk or come forward to try to compromise an investigation. And I think that's where she was slipped up. And I don't think it was anything that was that she was trying to say something that she didn't want to say. This is a mother who's really in limbo. She doesn't know what happened to her daughter. She doesn't know where her daughter is. She just wants to get to the bottom of it and find out. As you could see, she said, please just come home. Day 13, you and I both know the odds of her coming home dwindle as these days and hours go by. And it's unfortunate. It really is. But I have to say this, Lisa and I both know law enforcement, on the state, local, and federal level, they're working this case night and day. So there's things that are happening. There's interviews that are leading to certain things in certain areas. And as these areas get uncovered through interviews or information and tips, it leads them down into other areas. So, these things are fluid, and they happen. Things happen minute to minute, hour to hour, second to second. So that's what's happening behind the scenes. And Lisa, I know you've been involved in so many different kind of undercover cases and things of that nature. You can have something happen, 2 minutes down the line that'll take you in a completely different direction. Do you want to just elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. And one of the things also, too, people are saying, why wasn't there another presser done? Because a lot of times they do have information, they're following leads, and we know that police like to keep some things close to their vest. So as they're pursuing these leads, these are things that the general public should not be aware of. If they have a suspect, if they are following somebody, if somebody else is coming forward with information, until they have the opportunity to actually investigate it, they don't want to put those things out to the general public. You just can't share everything. And I think when Lindsey, the mother, said, her friends are being very forthcoming and they're sharing that information, and she's extremely thankful for that. But think about it. There were over 200 plus people at that party. And we don't know how many people the police were able to track down and interview. And think of all the cell phone footage from that evening, because that's all kids do now. They're filming, they're TikToking. So all of that material has to be looked at to try to find out when she was last seen. Did somebody have any footage of her getting into her car? Was somebody else with her? Because at the very end, remember, Sami alleged that she was going to look for her own ride because she didn't want to drive home drunk, or she was just going to stay there. Who's to say that somebody decided to drive Sami's car? Who's to say that that person was not very known to drive Kiely's car, and that person was not very known to her because she may have been possibly inebriated or potentially drugged. We don't know, but that's a lot of forensic data to go through. And I believe there are probably a lot of phones that are still at large, so to speak, with people who have not come forward with it.
Excellent points, Lisa. I agree wholeheartedly on that. I know for a fact that I listened to some statements from her friend Sami, and some of them did contradict themselves. But I know from interviewing and interrogating people, and I don't believe she was interrogated. I believe she definitely was interviewed. When you give an account of your story, I can interview someone on the scene of a homicide, and when we get them back into the station house hours later and re-interview them, and that's part of what detectives do. They interview and re-interview. You will get a different version of the story that they told you on the scene. So this could be something that's happening with her friend Sami, or she could be, not telling the truth. It's not our decision. It's not our job to determine that. We definitely watch it and look at it. But I know that the men and women who are tasked with the investigation, they are looking closely at not just her statements, but everybody's statements that are made. And therein lies the situation where parents are telling their children not to say anything because they're worried about liability issues. And that's the day and age that we live in, unfortunately. Back in the 60s and 70s, I was a kid in the 70s. If somebody did something wrong, you would be sat down at the table and the other parents would come over and you would have to tell them what happened. There was none of this mum's the word. There's no Brian Laundrie, pleading the fifth and keeping your mouth shut. You're talking about a human being who is now unaccounted for. There was talk about at that location, at that family campground, of the sanctuary. I know, Lisa, you probably heard that. And if you haven't, I'm going to play an older clip where a reporter talks about the sanctuary. And that's that exact location where they were all partying. And you talk about drug use, you talk about bong rips. There was another girlfriend talking that there was other guys and older guys. We don't know if there were 40s, 25, 30. It's either here nor there, but they were asking the ladies and the young girls to take bong hits. So really bad situation, but let's take a peek at this older footage and let's take a listen to this. I think this will tell us a little bit more about this situation.
We're here at the Truckee Recreation Center. This is just off Donner Pass Road, and this is really serving as the central hub for friends, family, and loved ones who are looking for Kiely. So I want you to take a look at what's happening right now. Throughout the day, we have seen detectives here as well, and community members have been being dispatched throughout the day to look for that teen.
Need you to be looking out for Kiely and Kiely's car.
Right now,
is anybody willing to go to Reno? And maybe Midtown? Yeah, perfect.
The search is on for 16-year-old Kiely Rodni. She was reported missing Saturday morning after she didn't come home from a party.
I asked her to wake me up when she got home, like she always does, and she said, okay, and thanks, Mama, love you. And that's the last I ever heard from her.
Sami Smith, one of Kiely's good friends, is organizing crews of community members who are looking for the teen across the Tahoe region. These flyers are posted in neighborhoods, downtown Truckee, and at campsites.
So this is where everybody's hanging out. Kiely and I were meeting up right here a lot.
Local young people call this open area near the Prosser family campground the sanctuary. It's a common place for parties. Sami says she was here with Kiely Friday night, along with tons of other high school and college kids from the Bay Area all the way to Nevada.
Right now, our estimate is about 200 to 250, maybe more.
What she and Kylie's family want to know is how no one saw her leave in her silver Honda CRV. Her car is still missing.
I can't believe it. There has to have been one person. There are people sitting in cars. There are people everywhere around this place.
She and detectives are begging for people who were at this party to come forward. Kylie's mom needs answers.
My head is all over the place and I'm terrified. Bad thoughts are very strong and hard to keep at bay. But I'm trying to hold out hope, that we'll find her, that she'll come home.
Now, I just spoke with the Placer County Sheriff's Office. They said something that's been really tough with this case is that because so many people at this party were minors and were underage drinking and doing drugs, that a lot of people haven't come forward. We do want to remind you that a tip line has been set up by the sheriff.
All right. I think that was good enough there, Lisa. And, when we talk about, I said the bong rips, that was obviously not my word. That was one of her friends made mention of that there was aggressive guys there asking the girls to take bong hits. But if you're taking a bong hit from somebody who you don't know if it's just marijuana that's in there. It could be, it could be anything. It could be angel dust. It could be, who knows? A whole host of stuff. Any kind of drugs could be in there. And if people are drinking, that's when you make your worst decisions, when you're drunk. And I know that guys and girls, we've all been there. We've all had that happen to us where you might have had one too many. And thank God you have good people around you that are looking out for you. But if you don't, this could be the result of her having one too many and partaking in extracurricular activities, maybe. And then, you have bodies of water, surrounding that whole location. And we have Adventures with Purpose who are going to be heading down there. They're going to be getting down there Friday night. And they're going to stay as long as they have to search those waterways. And I think we may get some answers from them. Any thoughts or opinions on that situation, Lisa?
Yes, absolutely. That needs to happen because here we are, day 13. And remember, with Gabby Petito in that high-profile case, when the FBI said, "Listen, anybody that has been out there, her van life." Twitters and all of the different sources that she used to propagate the media and talk about it. People are out there documenting what they were doing. And in that particular case, it took a while before this woman came forward and said, "Yes, I did see the van. It was parked there. It's on my footage. Oh my goodness." And getting the word out to all of these people. I can't imagine that of all these participants, because that area is so satiated with law enforcement and it's on the news and it's in the media and it's national, that the word would not have gotten out. We had a different case because of the Grand Tetons in Florida and, trying to get that information in the Gabby Petito Brian Laundrie case for it to reach that complete American appeal across the nation. In this particular case, it's a very isolated area. The news has been inundated with it. I'm here, in California. I see it nonstop. So certainly, I think anybody that was there at that party is probably somebody who was local that heard about that. So it's just a matter of time that we need to start looking into these waterways. We've already had divers out there, but again, there's a lot of water to cover.
Right. And like you said, in the day and age of social media, all it takes is a couple of posts on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the word can spread. Hey, there's a bunch of kids out there partying. Let's go and crash the party. It was a Friday night into a Saturday morning. Hey, listen, I have a special guest joining us, retired homicide detective sergeant Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff. Him and Phil, Detective Phil, straight out of Brooklyn, they've been covering this case. And listen, they're homicide investigators. He got a ton of experience. He has covered it extensively, and I want to say thank you to Bill for joining us tonight. Bill, thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be here. I'm glad that you have such a, she's a lot prettier than me, Lisa,
Bill,
Hi, Sarge.
How are you, Lisa?
Good.
Bill, I somehow knew you were going to do that, but that's okay. I love you. It doesn't
I
matter.
couldn't resist. I couldn't
I know.
resist.
I know. Well, as you've been listening, Lisa and I are talking about, Kiely Rodni. You covered the case extensively with Phil. I just want to get some of your thoughts. You're an experienced detective sergeant, Manhattan North homicide, many, many years. You've seen many missing person cases, not something quite like this. Any thoughts on what we're looking at here, Bill?
I think one of the most important things with a case like this and all missing person cases is the investigative direction. To go in a direction that makes the most sense, because obviously there could be, you hear some of the witnesses here and some are off the wall, and like you have to vet your witnesses, and some witnesses you have to just disqualify. If what they're saying is so outrageous, you got to disqualify them and move on. And you got to get to use the facts, use the evidence of what makes the most sense, and put your energy and your best investigators in that direction, and where that makes the most sense, or else you could be chasing your tail. You really can be. Look, there were 300 investigators on this, and now I believe they cut it down to 100. I'm not upset about that at all, because sometimes more isn't always better. Sometimes less is better.
Right.
And they can become more focused and more laser focused on the direction they're going in. So cutting it back is probably a good idea at this point.
Yeah, and they're talking about making it into a task force between the feds, the locals, and the state. 91 personnel now assigned, down from 300. 17,000, as Lisa said, almost 18,000 personnel hours cumulative. Assisting agencies: California Highway Patrol, the FBI, Truckee Police Department, Rockin Police Department, Auburn Police Department, Lincoln Police Department, Roseville Police Department, and the Placer County Fire. One dive team, one off-highway vehicle search and rescue team. A total of 1,550 tips. Bill, as a boss, as a supervisor in the squad, you get 1,550 tips on one case. That's a hell of a lot of tips.
You got to check, and you have to check them all out. You can't discount any of them.
Right.
And some of them are out and out nonsense.
This is as of yesterday, as of 8/17. 79 additional tips included in also 1,550 plus an additional 79 as of yesterday. Like you said, you got to go through them all. If someone says that they're seeing something through their TV or they're hearing voices, you still got to check it off and say that you made contact. Always the boss asks me, did you get a name? Did you talk? Who did you talk to? Did you get a name? Lisa, I mean, again, you've been involved in many, many investigations. You're looking at day 13. Well, this is day 12. This kind of numbers. It's just outstanding amount. It's just an overwhelming amount of investigatory work. And people don't have any, people that have no experience doing this job are just sitting there saying, well, why aren't they getting it done?
Yeah, imagine, because like you said, putting a task force together makes the most sense, because now that we have all this data, how do we share it? How do we share it? How do we get that information to the feds, to the local authorities, to the county, to the fire, where the tips are coming in and the tip lines, and how it's doled out and who's following up on it? And then where is the funnel? Where does that come down so that they could start to put this together? You've got to have a template. It's not like you've got one room. You see the place they have set up over there, kind of like the command post. You've got a couple trailers, etc., but you need a big room. You've got to have a timeline. You've got to have the funnel, the characters, who's been vetted, who hasn't been. Just like Sergeant Cannon just said. I mean, that's the thing. Where are the ones that are valid? Where do they have to spend their time and put their attention on? Yeah. And it has to come together that way.
Bill, a lot of the internet sleuths, and we love our sleuths because they're the ones that keep us going. They send us the questions. They send us, they question us, right? They're questioning the legitimacy of her friend Sami. They're questioning the legitimacy of some of the statements. And that's good detective work, because that's what we do, right? I mean, we're always questioning some of the validity of what's being told to us. Anything on that, Bill?
DutyRon, absolutely. For some reason, sometimes you turn on a camera and people want to become stars. And sometimes they literally make stuff up just so they can stay in that limelight. And I didn't like a lot of the things her friend Sami was saying. And she may fit that category, that she just wanted to be in the limelight. Not only did I see her on the TV, but she was on every damn internet and every content creator on YouTube that I turned on.
Yeah.
I see her face.
Right.
To me, that's not a good look.
It reminds me of the girl in the Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito one that went on to, I think it was TikTok, and said that she picked up Brian Laundrie. I don't know if that was ever vetted, if she actually, in fact, picked him up, but she went on every single news outlet, and she also blew her own TikTok up and went on many, many people. So you're right, Bill. So many people want the limelight. They want to be in front of the cameras, and it's not for the good reasons of the person who's missing. Or the victim's family. They're trying to help themselves, and that's a shame. But that's something that we as investigators have to look at.
It clouds up the case, Ron. It really does.
Yeah, I agree. And there's no question that canine and drones were thrown up. We heard that they put divers into the water. Ventures with Purpose. They've been on many cases. I think they've solved 23 cases. Most of them have been cold cases, but out of 23 of those, I believe 20 were already cleared bodies of water cleared by law enforcement. And I go, I cringe when I hear that. But you're looking at a case that's 20 some odd years old. Some of them are 10 years old. Some of them are, many, they're cold cases. And they're going back and they're going over meticulously because they don't have any restrictions. There's no one there saying, hey, you got 5 hours of overtime here, kid. Let's wrap this up. I'm not signing your, I'm not signing your slip.
Isn't that a shame that exists, Ron, that overtime is a thing? It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, the three of us laugh at that, but it's true because we've experienced it with our bosses. Like, hey, you've got 15 hours of overtime. You got 15:25. You got to now reset the clock and start over again. It's like they're not under that, guys. They are not held to to those kind of rules and standards. So I think it's great. Adventures with Purpose, Jacob at Chaos Divers, and all these independent divers that are out there, they really can just take their sweet time, go over stuff with a fine-tooth comb, and not have anybody saying, hey, the county has to pay you for this. They're not getting paid. They're depending on good people to support them. And that's the same thing with EquiSearch. EquiSearch Midwest can sit there and search and research. Whereas, law enforcement is like, you got the boss. He's looking at the clock and saying, hey, come on, big guy, we got to get going, Lisa, you've had that happen with you, right? In your case?
Oh, yes. I mean, sergeants, bosses, lieutenants thinking that you're trying to milk the case just to get the overtime, but, when you're a good cop, you're a good detective, you would hope and expect that they would back you to say, I have this hunch, we need to follow it. We need to continue. You're burning your candle at both ends, 20 hours into something, and you want to just continue to be able to get your results. And it's not about, I can't wait until I get that paycheck. That's the last thing. That's the last thing on a lot of police officers' minds.
Hey, folks in the chat, I know there's a lot of you guys with great questions, and we're going to hold those questions to the end. Bill is on a time limit because in 15 minutes, he's going to be going live, and we're going to end the show. And all of you are going to be directed over to Police Off the Cuff. He's going to be talking about some really pressing situations that are going on with migrants being brought into New York City by the busloads. He's got a lot of good stuff to talk about. But before I let Bill go, I want to play this. It's only 3 minutes. I'm going to play this drone footage. This is at the family campground, and it shows the body of water surrounding this campground. I think you in the audience may have seen maybe some different versions, but I got one that's unbelievable, and it's going to give you a great overview of how much water and how many possibilities there could be, God forbid, for Kiely here. So let's take a peek at this, and then we're going to let Bill run. I'll go full screen with it so it really gives you high impact. I'm not going to play the music. I just want you guys to see it. Bill, I don't know if you've seen this, Lisa, but this is the body of water that surrounds this campground. It's 5 minutes. I'm only going to play 3 of it. I haven't. It's excellent. yeah, I was taken back by this because it's just, monstrous. This thing goes all the way around. And wait until you see when he goes with the drone across the campsite. You're going to see some campers in place and some things, and it's just going to show you how massive and expansive it is. Bill, have you seen this?
I did see part of it. I didn't watch the whole thing, but it's. I can't believe how big it is now. I didn't realize it was this big.
Yeah. And there's a point where I'll show you guys where the actual party was taking place. But there's some corny music in this, so I'm sparing everybody the music. There it is. So
I'm looking at all of the banks to look for vehicle tracks along the banks because you could see the striations and trying to see what's disturbed. So that drone is doing a great job.
Right. And for me, this really gave you look at how thick these are mature trees grown there. Those aren't. That is, you cannot see even from a drone. You're not going to be able to see down, and you'll see when he goes over these trees here how easily somebody could hide a body in there in the trees. There's going to be a little bit more coming up. But this is just an unbelievable on take, and you see dogs running around. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm going to spare us that. Bill, while you're looking at this, what would you do as a supervisor on this one?
Look, I would hope that you have the equipment, helicopters, drones, to look for to disturbed land, look for tire tracks, things like that, and then get the ground forces in there to check on what you saw from above.
So I stopped it here because you could see these campers down in the bottom right. There's a little opening there, and those are folks who are in the campground. Again, it's massive, and the amount of water that is surrounding this thing, it's almost like when I looked at it from Google Earth, and now when I see it from this drone, it's almost like a horseshoe. It goes all the way around the whole campsite, and it's just water. It's
amazing.
Dark. Yeah, it's just jaw-dropping, and we're looking at it from drone footage. Imagine going there in person and driving along this thing with a quad, or just going around. It looked like it would take all day to get around this place. So these investigators have a lot on their plate, and this is just this goes on. I mean, it's 5 minutes of it, and there's vehicles can drive up and in there. It's not just a four-wheeler thing. You could just drive a car up and in there, and just it's just unbelievable. It's massive. But the amount of people that were at I'm going to stop this. The amount of people that were at this party, Bill, they estimate it to be between 200 and 300. Okay, but what's the odds of them getting to even half of these people? I mean, I think those odds are kind of low, because you got people that are telling their kids to stay back, which is horrible, and not talk, and if you don't say anything, you're better off, and the liability and things of that nature. I mean, how
they just need one good tip to solve this. So
yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, Bill. I mean, and again, I have this thing running. I want to just show this part quickly, because this is the end of it, and then there's like a road, and then there's more water beyond that. This is just insane. Somebody told me that some of the depths of this water goes down as almost as far as 1,000 feet. Adventures with Purpose is going to have their hands full. That's for sure. And they could probably spend days, if not weeks, there searching the bodies of water. Listen, Bill, I know you got to go. I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks for inviting me on, Lisa. It was great to see you.
You too, Sarge.
And I told Lisa before you came on that if I didn't invite you, you would get jealous. So
that's right. I was a little bit jealous.
It's the same thing with Barbara Butcher. When I get Barbara,
that's right.
Bill's like, you better put me on, otherwise. Bill, have a good show. Everybody that's here, we have over 1,200 people now. We're going to redirect you to Bill's show at 9 o'clock. So we're going to have 10 minutes of a little Q&A here. So, Bill, thank you for joining. We'll see you tonight on your show, and I appreciate
All right,
it.
DutyRon. Thank you so much.
Take care, Bill.
Bye,
Bye,
Lisa.
friend.
Sergeant Bill Cannon, there he goes, a retired homicide detective sergeant, and it's always great to have him come on and join us and give a little bit of his experience. Lisa, I got to say, for me, the possibilities here in this case are endless. From her being drunk and getting into a car and going into a ravine and off a ditch. We didn't talk about it, but I want to mention it. The couple that went missing on the same date, that was Jeanette Pentajoy. I'm probably botching her last name, and her ex-boyfriend, Juan Almez Zavella, 36. They were found earlier today in a ravine down an embankment, they said, found inside a car in Nevada City, California. Terrible, ending to that story, but there was already people that were wrapping those two in with this case. And now we come to find out they had a horrible car accident.
Right.
I mean, the possibilities on, what could have happened to Kiely, and what now we know what happened to them in remote areas. You live in California. Have you ever been to some of these?
Right, down an embankment. It took 11 days that somebody just stumbled upon it. And that's how a lot of these cases are solved, where somebody just happens to be looking over and they see, oh my gosh, there's a car down there. And it's my understanding that they were ejected. So the bodies were actually outside the vehicle once they went down that embankment. So who's to say that a similar fate has met Kiely? And just because that area is just so lush with all of these trees and these cliffs and these embankments, that she didn't meet a similar fate. And we just don't know. But you showing that footage, I think that gave me some hope, because let's just say one of the scenarios is that she went off into this lake and that the vehicle became submerged because of the possibility that the phone being off, the only way that it would be off, that you would not be able to pick up a location services if it was submerged. That would be the only thing that would stop it. So we could say that could be the case. Or it's an abduction and they took her far away from the scene and took her vehicle. The vehicle's already been to a chop shop, potentially completely dismantled, and she could be, unfortunately, buried somewhere. There are a lot of scenarios. Obviously, I want to be as optimistic as possible about this, that potentially that she was abducted, and there's a potential that we can get her back. So there is just so much. Those embankments, though, looking for tire marks, just to rule that out, you wouldn't even need to have a diver for that, because you can look and create a scenario with another vehicle to find out if a vehicle did roll down, would those tracks be there? Is it too dense, or would they be able to see some striations along all of those hillsides?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, that could be done easily from a high-tech drone. You take that drone and, it could be done in probably in hours. Probably in a couple of hours, you could get complete drone footage of that complete surrounding embankments and look for impressions. Again, it's 13 days into this thing, so some of the tire tracks could be either covered up, and I understand that it's a drought. There hasn't been rain, and I look for precipitation. There hasn't been really much precipitation, a tenth of an inch of rain. So it's been very dry there. So water levels are receding at that location, things of that nature. I want to just highlight this comment because this is a good one. Roger says, I'd rather have more information than not enough, regardless if all the pieces fit or not. More puzzle pieces, the better. Never give up personal research and have uncomfortable conversations. Hey, listen, Roger, I'm all for that. Some of the best think tanks happen on the internet and in some of these Twitter spaces. I don't know, Lisa, do you ever delve in those Twitter spaces? I've never been.
The cyber sleuths are, to me, they're the unsung heroes in so many of these cases. I love that the interest was there for it. I wish back in my law enforcement days that we had more of that. It just wasn't as large as it is now. And I love watching these incredible people who are investigating it, that they care enough to try to get closure, to find the bad guy. It becomes an asset to law enforcement.
I agree wholeheartedly, because in the day and age of the information superhighway, I started in 1991. There wasn't even Facebook back then. I think that, in the middle of my career, it started coming up, with I think Twitter, but we had nothing. We had to go by either the phone or going and knocking on doors and, going around to people's work, locations and neighborhood parks and things of that nature. And that's how we would pound the pavement, So listen, everybody's here in the chat and I see some of the great comments. If you have any questions for myself or Lisa, we got another 10 minutes. Put them in the chat, highlight them, put a little asterisk next to it. It doesn't have to be a super chat. If I see any good questions, Lisa, if you see anything, just let me know. I'm going to pull up. There's another player in the online internet game. Is like 2 million or 3 million subscribers, Ryan Upchurch. And he offered for anyone who leads information to finding Kiely, I think a Hellcat. I don't even know what that is. Maybe that's a car. That's an expensive car or something. But the guy, this is what one of my subscribers and one of my friends told me, and she's pretty reputable. She said he made a statement, I guess, on his YouTube channel that he would donate or give someone a Hellcat. I don't know. Maybe is that a race car? I don't know what it is. But Ryan Upchurch, I don't know. I'll have to look that up. It sounds like a car to me. But he is doing videos on this thing, and he's giving his opinions, and I think that common sense here, when you listen to someone give a statement and they contradict themselves or change it, it has meaning to investigators pay attention to that. So I'm going to tell you this: when someone goes on and is interviewed by the press, or someone goes on a YouTube channel and they start speaking about their knowledge or what they think they know about the case, people listen to that. Investigators listen to it. So I was right. It's a car. People are saying it's a car.
Okay.
So it's a Dodge Challenger. All right, a Hellcat Dodge Challenger. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Vicky Lynn.
It goes to show you where we stand with that. Just give me a good old BMW, Mercedes, or whatever, and I'm good. So a lot of love's coming in for Lisa Lockwood. Look at that. Jane from the country says Lisa Lockwood. Lots of blue hearts.
Thank you, Jane.
Guys, if you're not subscribed to Lisa Lockwood's channel, she's on YouTube. I have it linked down below in the description. Lisa is, she goes on. You want to talk about what you do on Law and Crime and how that goes down with you?
Sure. So we cover trials, murder cases, and basically just talk through everything that happened. And I'll share my perspective of the police investigation leading up to the arrest, what was missed, what was great. On a case today, EquiSearch was used to help find a body of somebody who allegedly committed suicide, and the husband is being implicated for setting up and staging the suicide. So I'm very familiar with the way this works, especially from you, DutyRon. EquiSearch is just an amazing force for good for helping find people and find bodies and locating the missing and allowing people to get their closure. So that's basically what it is.
Wow, that's some great stuff. And Bill and I are the law enforcement liaisons for EquiSearch Midwest. So when they have cases and they are trying to communicate with law enforcement, they reach out to us, and then we do it remotely. We make some phone calls on their behalf. So I'm proud and to do what I do for EquiSearch to try to bridge the gap. As a matter of fact, the boys in California, Orrin and Orson West, Sincere and Classic, I brokered a deal with the Bakersfield Police Department to let our drone operators do imaging on the Kern River for the boys. And they took, I think, 13 or 14,000 images and put them in a program called Locate to try to find disturbed pieces of dirt and land, searching for any type of, graves or anything of that nature. And it took me almost a month and a half to get the deal done, but we were back and forth with sergeants, lieutenants, captains, you know how that goes, the pecking order, and we got it done. And we also called down to Summer Wells to Hawkins County Sheriffs, and we got permission to get the EquiSearch to come back there a second time. So
Amazing.
yeah, this is stuff that, like a lot of people say, all right, Lisa and DutyRon, they're retired, they're washed up, they're done. No, we're not done. Lisa's given her, valuable information from her perspective of her experience. We're continuing, Bill and I, educating our audiences and also helping in these missing person cases. We're not trying to solve them, but we're definitely trying to give you, the viewer, a little bit of a better insight of what goes on without giving the shop up. Of course, Lisa, we can't give our trade secrets away. But we do try to give you guys a little bit of a better layman's, so you understand what goes on and how much work goes into these things. All right, Laura, look at that, Lisa. She says,
Oh my gosh.
$100,000
What
cost.
an offering. Incredible. Maybe
So-
now if that gets publicized, maybe that'll get some movement because, obviously rewards are enticing for some people who are on the fence regarding giving information. So 100 grand vehicle, that's incredible.
Right. Exactly. And I'm going to reach out to this guy because I want to try to, at least talk to him. I mean, he probably wouldn't come on to my program, but I would love to just talk to him and say, hey, thank you for that. Because any kind of, and listen, he's got a channel that has, I think, close to 3 million subscribers. I'll have to look him up, but he has a huge reach. So he's putting this thing out there in the public's eye. And when you have, small channels like myself and then larger channels like that is just as good as News Nation or, ABC, CBS, Fox. You're getting a reach to some of the people who are the most engaged. When you go on news, law and crime, there's no engagement with them. You can't, text back and forth with them. Here, you're going to get the live interactive engagement. So it's a little different, Anybody have any questions for Lisa or myself? He said, Tennessee girl says, Ryan Upchurch said he'd also personally deliver the car to the person.
No.
That's impressive. Wow. I got to get a hold of him and see what
Sure.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think we did a great job of covering this. Bill is going to be live. It's 9:00. He's pretty punctual. Again, keep speaking about this case. Keep talking about all of these missing person cases. It doesn't matter big or small. We talk about them. Dylan Rounds is still near and dear to my heart. I was on the phone today with Candace Cooley. That's his mom. She's got a lot to say. She's going to be joining me tomorrow night on a live stream to give some updates. I think, I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to ask her to come on with me tomorrow night. That's Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Candace Cooley to talk about the recent search warrants that were conducted and some of the things that's going on with Elko, Box Elder, and things of that nature. There's a lot that she wants to say. So I think she's going to be joining us tomorrow night. I think it'll be an interesting show, to say the least. Lisa, I always say this to you. Please come back. We love you.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I would love to.
Anything that you have to put out, or that you want to?
I did want to wrap up with one other thing. So we also have the other woman who went missing 4 hours after our original Kiely disappearance, and that woman, Jolisa Fuentes, 4 hours away from that location. She and her vehicle are also missing. So we have, another case with a very similar circumstance where she and her vehicle were last seen at 4 a.m. at an AMP gas station in Selma, which is 4 hours away, 4 hours after. So is there something there? And I'm sure they're investigating that to try and find out, could they have traveled that far? And could there have been another person involved? And there was another potential abduction. So that needs to be looked at.
Yeah, we got to keep continually talking about these cases. I'm going to link that story down below after this is over. The link to Sergeant Bill Cannon's live is you don't need it. All you have to do is stay here. And as soon as we end, it's going to direct you right to his live. So I want you guys to say, when you're redirected to Police Off the Cuff, just tell them that you came from DutyRon, Crime Time with DutyRon and Lisa Lockwood. So it's a beautiful new feature that YouTube has just rolled out where you can redirect to another friend's channel. So Bill Cannon and Police Off the Cuff is one of maybe a handful of people, and Lisa would be the same thing, who I would recommend, because I know these are folks that would not steer you in the wrong direction. So Police Off the Cuff, Sergeant Bill and Detective Phil, Lisa Lockwood. There's, Mike King from Profiling Evil. These are folks who I recommend. So that's what we'll do. We'll end this on a good note. Guys, make sure you subscribe to Crime Time with DutyRon and Lisa Lockwood's channel. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. Leave us a comment down below. We love to engage with you guys, and
We do.
Some of the best comments come in from people after the conversation is over, and that's what's great about the comment section, is you can continue that conversation. I hope you guys all enjoyed this 1 hour program. Lisa, again, it's an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to have you always on with
Thank
me.
you, sir.
Yeah. Hey guys, as I always like to end these things, God bless the world, God bless the United States of America, and God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, but especially all victims of crime and their family. Kiely Rodni, her mom, Lindsey, she needs us now more than ever. Let's send them strength, prayers, and positive vibes. On behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Lisa Lockwood, wish you guys a good night and God bless. Peace, guys.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye-bye.